Hello everyone, welcome to GS Core. My name is Abhishiekh Saxena and I teach Public Administration, Governance and Social Justice and Current Affairs. Today we are here as part of our GS Mains Answer Writing Initiative. And as part of this GS Mains Answer Writing Initiative, we are going to take up an important section of GS Paper 2, that is Governance and Social Justice. So if we look at the governance and social justice, the area is very interesting in the sense that it presents and tests the knowledge of the candidate on a very healthy mix of static and dynamic aspects. While it does that, it also involves the heavy amount of interlinking, not just with the areas given in the syllabus. So more than one heads in the syllabus can overlap in the form of questions. Also from the point of view that it spans across various dimensions. Dimensions like technology, environment, gender, vulnerability, right? And many more. And hence it provides a very interesting mix. Also, often we look at governance as associated with polity. Yes, that is correct. That is correct to an extent that while polity provides us the structural framework, the governance is more so about the functional aspects. And hence we can say that this governance as a topic, as a subject, emerges as a close cousin of polity, or rather governance and social justice as a whole. But there is more to it. More to it in the sense that it does not only require us to understand that it is about functional aspects. It is also more pertinent to understand that how it happens. So not just the what aspect, but also how, as well as to give suggestions how it could be. Right? So that is something which is very pertinent for us to note. A bit confusing, right? It might sound to begin with. But as we discuss the idea of governance and social justice and the theme for today, it will get more clearer. So let us proceed. So if we look at the syllabus for governance and social justice, I have categorized that syllabus into 10 different headings. And I have linked them with the original text provided by the UPSC in its notification. Also, if we look at the value of the subject and the emphasis, governance and social justice accounts for 90 to 110 marks in GS paper 2. Why I am giving a range? Range because a similar pattern either ways comes for polity and about 50 marks for IR. So that is largely the GS paper 2 for you. And the reason for the range is given because at times the questions focus on both the aspects of polity and governance. It is the weight of the question where it is that makes it a question of more of governance or more of more of governance and social justice and more of Indian polity. So that is how it works, right? but definitely from 90 to 110 marks every year, and that is 40% on an average for the marks distribution of GS paper 2. Hence it is very important. As far as the syllabus bifurcation is concerned, there are implicit aspects as well as explicit aspects. Explicit aspects which are very, very clearly given in the syllabus. The implicit aspects which are not very, very clearly given in the syllabus, but yes, they do get asked. Right? So the categorization goes like this. One is the basic concepts. Basic concepts like what is governance, good governance, other important aspects of governance. Right? The theoretical evolution, etc., etc. How governance came into being as a paradigm for the state to provide for public interest. Next, the idea of local government, where we talk about the local self-government. The thread in the syllabus says devolution of powers and finances. Devolution of powers and finances up to local levels. And challenges therein. Right? Next, the head which I have given is the pressure groups. The pressure groups and development. So it talks about the development process and industry. Development process and industry. The role of NGOs, SHGs. The role of NGOs, SHGs, various groups and associations. Various groups and associations, donors, charities, institutional and other stakeholders. The next head is about policies / interventions, where we talk about the government policies and interventions for the development in various sectors. For the development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. Next, we take up the idea of transparency, accountability, and e-governance, where we talk about important aspects of governance, transparency, and accountability. E-governance, basically e-governance in its substantial form, models, practices, successes, limitations. Successes, limitations, potential, things like Citizens Charter, RTI, Citizens Charter, RTI, institutional and other stakeholders. Right? And then the idea of social sector. So these are the heads which are given by me, and this is something which UPSC prescribes. Right? Social sectors talk about issues related to management of social sector services like health, education, human resources. Then the idea of poverty and hunger. Poverty and hunger, wherein we take up issues related to poverty and hunger. And then the regulatory institutions. Though we are giving the head as regulatory institutions, but it talks about other multifaceted institutions, whether it is constitutional, statutory, quasi-judicial, right, regulatory, other form of institutions. And then last but not the least, we talk about things like civil service, wherein the thread given by the syllabus is role of civil service in a democracy. And then there is a general thread of sorts, which I label as 10, which goes across, right? And it talks about welfare schemes. Though I have named it welfare schemes, but it is all about the various policies, programs, schemes of the center as well as the states. It is about their performance as well as laws, institutions, bodies created for the purpose of the betterment of the vulnerable sections. Right? So that is the broad area. So you might have a scheme or a policy or a program and transparency and accountability aspects linked to it. Right? Or a health issue or some question related to the health sector and be related with the e-governance, for example, National Digital Health Mission, right? Or the implementation of health sector at the levels of the local self-government, right? So that is why the nature of the subject is such that it demands heavy interlinkages. Also, by definition, governance emerges as a multi-stakeholder and a multi-dimensional paradigm. And hence, we need to keep all those things in mind. So let us quickly get to the theme for this mains answer writing. And for that, we have chosen the theme local government. Right? That is devolution of powers and finances and the up to local levels and the challenges therein. Right? So when we look at this theme, we are talking about powers and finances. One very implicit aspect to this theme is the manpower or the people, right? So if we look at the trajectory of the previous year's questions, they reflect around 3 F's, that is funds, functions, and functionaries, right? Funds as in finance, function is closely related to power, and functionaries who are working as part of the broader system, right? So whenever we talk about funds, we'll have to talk about sources of these funds, right? Sources like tax revenue, non-tax sources, etc. The issues, challenges, and the possible solutions, including the innovative way of financing like municipal bonds or ideas of or the challenges of the implementation of the funding mechanism or the resource mobilization. The challenge incentive approach, which has been recently adopted into the overall local self-government scenario, right? As far as the functions we talk about the powers as well as the discharge of function. That how good the bodies, the local bodies, whether urban or rural, are there in terms of realizing the mandate entrusted upon them, right? So it will be all about organizational efficiency and effectiveness, right? The relationship of functions entrusted to these bodies vis-a-vis 11th schedule and 12th schedule. The provisions of the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act in terms of the mandatory and optional provision, and the analysis and the qualitative aspects of how good these bodies are in implementing the functions. It will also determine its relationship with the state level, as in what functions are delegated to them, right? As part of the larger idea of democratic decentralization. Then vis-a-vis functionaries, issues related to the structure of the organizations, the personnel management system or the human resource management followed at these levels, right? How are functionaries related? What is their level of autonomy, dependence, incentive, training, capacity building, right? Other than that, issues of, let us say, infrastructure, right? Processes, functional issues. For example, issues like sarpanch patis, right? So things like that. All this is then linked to the overall aspects of governance and social justice. Just like I said, we can talk about how local self-governments are working in the field of, let us say, healthcare, right? How the local self-governments are working in field of education, right? Or how local self-governments through other initiatives like common service centers and BharatNet, etc., can actually digitize the India and realize the vision of digital India, right? So while we link them with the other aspects or other heads of governance and social justice, whether we are talking about accountability, transparency, representativeness at the local levels, or we are linking them with other social issues, right? They can also be put in the context of themes related to technology, e-governance and use of technology at local levels, right? Climate change or environment, wherein we can talk about how local bodies can play a constructive role in the overall project of climate change, right? Technology, yes, I have told you, e-governance, but let us not limit to e-governance. It is also about technologies related to fourth industrial revolution with themes like gender. Sarpanch Pati or Panchayat Pati is one example. The gender empowerment at the grassroots, the challenges which are there in the modern times, for example, challenge of urbanization, solid waste disposal, right? So all those challenges can come there. Sustainable mobility, okay, tourism. So these emerging strands in our governance discourse, right, those can be there. Also, in terms of the qualitative aspects of public service delivery, issues related to accessibility, availability, affordability, sustainability, right? So all those issues form the gamut of our interest when we study governance and social justice vis-a-vis the theme of devolution of powers and finances up to local levels and challenges therein, right? Every alternate year you see at least a question, either a 10 marker or a 15 marker being asked from this section, and hence this is important, right? So I hope this video will serve as a premiere for you to dive deep into the subject of governance and social justice in general and the theme of devolution of powers and finances up to local levels and challenges therein in particular. That's all. Thank you.